Hello and welcome to my series of Photoshop tutorials. For the first video, I'm basically going to split this video into two parts. I'm going to go over the essentials of Photoshop, so basically just getting to know your way around the program. The first part will probably just be this left toolbar right here, this left-hand side, and then the second part I will go over the menus up here and the right-hand side of Photoshop, which is it's where you'll be working with the most probably. Um, so for the first part, I'm just going to go over the tools. So I already have my picture and I duplicated the background layer so that I can work with it and kind of show you the tools. For the first tool, it's pretty simple. It's just the move tool. The shortcut is V. So if you hit V on your keyboard, you'll select the move tool. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You left click and move. And, oh, sorry. That's all there is to it. You just left click and move, drag it where you want, and you're good to go. So moving on, the next three tools are all selection tools. They're variations. So the first is the marquee tool, and if you left click and hold here, you have the rectangular marquee tool, the elliptical, the single row, and the single column marquee tools. And I'm just gonna go over the rectangular because that's probably the most used, or the most common, I guess. And basically it's pretty simple. You just click and hold and you select an area. You'll get these like ants or whatever. Right now I have a feather on, so let me actually just take that off real quick. Alright, so you have your selection, then if you hit like delete for example, and on your keyboard it will delete this area, and you can see it's very like, it's just they're flat edges. If there's a feather option up here, if you go up here you can either click here and just drag, or you can enter your own value. So let's say I want a 50 pixel feather. Now if you drag, you'll notice the corners are rounded. If you hit delete, it is now much more feathered. The edges are much more feathered. It's a softer cutout. That's the marquee tool. The next selection tool is the lasso tool. As you can see, there's the polygonal and the magnetic lasso tool as well. I'll just go over the lasso tool real quick. It's basically like the marquee tool, but instead of having a preset shape like a circle or a rectangle, this is a custom selection. So if I left click and hold, I can drag up here and kind of just make your own selection. It's just a rough selection. It's kind of laggy with the recorder up, so it's not that easy to select. But if you go into the other lasso tools, you can see there's the polygonal. It's the same thing, but it just makes straight lines. So you click, drag, and it just makes straight lines. Then the magnetic is the same thing, but it's gonna try to snap to like a tree. So as you can see, it's like snapping for you. So the next tool is the quick selection tool, and this is pretty simple. You just click and it's gonna select an area, and then right now it's set to add, so it's gonna keep adding on to your selection the more you click. You can come up here and change it to, I think you can hold down Alt as well. If you hold down Alt, you'll see the minus sign, plus, and then minus. Now if you click, it's gonna take away from your selection, but it's gonna try to select relatively the same colors that you're selecting currently. And then obviously you can see there's your selection. And then there's the magic wand tool, which is another quick selection tool. It's a variation of it. And basically, you'll see, I'll click on this tree right here, and it should select it's gonna try to select all of these trees around it because they're similar in color and everything. So you can see, there you go, it selected all the trees around it. That is the magic wand tool. The next tool is the crop tool. This is like any other photo editing program like Paint, for example, or GIMP or Inkscape. It's pretty simple. You just make your selection. There's your window. If you hit enter, it's going to crop the image, and here's your new image. Pretty simple stuff. Oh, sorry. The next tool is the eyedropper tool, and this is, if you notice over here, you will see black and white is your default foreground and background color. So the eyedropper tool is mainly, it's actually, its only purpose really is to select colors for you. So if you wanted, let's say, yellow from these leaves, you would just click on the leaves, hover over until you get a good shade of yellow that you want. And there you go. No, notice it changed your foreground, so if you hit these arrows right here, it will switch to your background. Now you can select, let's say, an orange. Just hover until you get the orange that you want. And there you go. The next tool is the healing brush, and basically this is going to, if you, let's say I don't want this stump right here in the picture, the healing brush is going to try to resample things for you, and you'll see once it's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see once I use it. Basically going to try to automatically resample the image for you, and now you can't really tell that the stump was there. And then if we, actually I'm going to keep that there. I'm going to skip a tool real quick, which is the brush tool. I'm going to go right to the clone stamp tool because it's very similar to the healing brush. And for this, it's basically you're just going to hold Alt and select an area which is going to be cloned over to somewhere else. So let's say I want to get rid of this right here. It's in the shade, so you're going to want to select an area that's also in the shade to make it look more realistic. So let's say I hold Alt and I click right here. You'll see now by my cursor, inside of it is where I just selected, and if I brush over it, it's pretty simple stuff. And then there's your area that you brushed over. The next tool is the brush tool. This is probably the most used tool in Photoshop. The brush tool is very simple. You can come up here, or you can right click on the screen and you'll bring up this basic menu. These are just the default brushes. You can download more brushes online. You can actually make your own brushes as well. But I'll just show you like a round soft brush. So I'll turn the hardness down, which makes it soft. Let's keep it at I'll just do 200. And then right now I have orange selected, so if I switch to yellow, you can see it's pretty simple. I'll make another video for brushes alone, but that's that for now. You can select different brushes. Obviously you can see there's grass, if you wanted grass in your photo for whatever reason. Moving on, this is the history brush, and basically you're just going to brush over an area where you have done editing, and it will go through your history of editing and undo what you have done. So like over here we cloned over the stump or whatever that was in the grass. So using the history brush, if we brush over that area, it should come back because it's going to go back and undo what you have done. You can see over there too. It's pretty easy. The next tool is the eraser tool. Obviously, like any other program, it's just simply erases, so there you go, you guessed it. You can edit it like a brush as well. As you can see, there's the same brushes as before. And then, there you go, that's the eraser tool. The next tool is I think it's Paint Bucket by default, but I'll create a new layer. And to demonstrate, you wouldn't really use the Paint Bucket if you're like editing a photo, but I guess we can try to give you an example. Let's say I wanted to like add a warm photo filter. I paint over. Let's set this to overlay. And if you lower the opacity, now you have kind of a different feel to your photograph, I guess. That's one maybe practical use for photo editing. Not really, but I'd say the gradient map is more useful. So if you click and hold down, you'll see the gradient map, or the gradient tool. And right now I'll select this violet to orange gradient. You can also double click it, or wait. Sorry, if you click the gradient itself, it will bring up this menu. You can edit the colors if you want. And so violet to orange, basically you're just gonna click, make sure you can pick different kinds up here. Right now I have the spotlight type of gradient selected, so if you click and hold, well, if you the farther you go, the more exaggerated it will be. So I barely went anywhere. If you click and drag it really far, you'll see it makes it more exaggerated. So if you set this to overlay, for example, you can see obviously there's a difference. The next two tools come in like pairs, so I'm just gonna go over the blur tool because they're pretty self-explanatory. This comes with blur, sharpen, and smudge, so it's exactly what the name says. Um, all it's gonna do is blur. So up here you have the strength. I have it at 100 for demonstration purposes, but I'll show you right now. I'll blur this area out, and I'll make the brush bigger. It's exactly like a brush tool. You can make it bigger. You can customize it. So let's start blurring. And you can see that area got pretty blurry. And then sharpen makes things sharper. It's the opposite of blur. And then smudge, obviously, it's just smudge. So I guess I can show you. There's the smudge tool. Next tools are dodge, burn, and sponge. And dodge makes things brighter. Burn makes things darker. And sponge saturates and desaturates color. So I'll demonstrate with dodge. And it's like this for all of the tools. So you have your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights, and then exposure, which is basically like the strength of the tool. So I have exposure turned up all the way. If I wanted to lighten up this tree, I would select shadows, and let's lighten up this tree. I don't know if you can really tell, but yeah, you can tell. Obviously that part became too bright, but for demonstration purposes, you can tell what happened. And then I guess I'll do sponge, because burn's just the opposite of dodge, so sponge. Right now it's set to desaturate, so I'll set it to saturate. It's easier to tell. And again, it's like a brush, so saturate, this is going to add color, so yeah, you can really tell there. It's adding a lot of color, it's making it brighter. The next tool is the pen tool, and this is one of the most used tools, I would say, for my purposes at least. If you're making like abstract art, you're going to be making your own shapes. If you're making vector art or like cartoony stuff, you'll be using the pen tool and making shapes. So basically, if you click, it's just going to add a point, and you can just click and make basic shapes like this. There's a triangle. You can also, if you click, and then if you click and hold, it's going to curve it. And then, I'll just show you an example. And there you go, there's just a random shape, and then you can right click it, fill it, you can stroke it, all that kind of stuff. So if you fill it, you can use like a pink or a red. There you go. And then you can set this to like overlay, soft light, do whatever you want with it. I'll keep it on soft light. So there you go, it's pretty simple. That's the pen tool. These are just the very basics, so don't get too worried about having to go in depth. The text tool, very simple. You just click, and then let's say we wanted to write that out. You can, up here at the top here, you can change the font, the size, the kind of text, I guess, strong, smooth, crisp, that kind of stuff. And then you can align it to the left, center, and right, and then here's how you change color. You can also if you go to window up here, you can enable the paragraph window, and then character comes with it as well. Well, there's character window right there too. And then you can like change it you can change the text itself, so like all caps, italics, stuff like that. Really simple stuff. And then this is just a selection tool. This is like the pen tool, but it's just predefined shapes, so like, I don't know, it has like some weird settings on it right now. But it's just like the pen tool, it's going to make a shape, it'll make a layer for you as well. And then the last two tools are, this is the hand tool, and then I guess I'll zoom in just to show you. The hand tool is basically used when you're zoomed in, so it's like you just click and it's going to grab for you, and you can move the picture around. So it's very easy to work with. And that's pretty much all the tools that you need to worry about on this side. Um, I will get to part two, so be sure to check that out. I'm going to go over the menus up here and the right hand side of Photoshop as well. So thanks for watching, and be sure to check out part two.